Has there ever been a city that you really wanted to visit? Maybe, just maybe, it's this place. Do you know which city this is? If you said London, you'd be right. And right smack in the middle of London is none other than Big Ben. Or how about this place, this metropolis? Maybe you've always wanted to go here. Do you know which European city this is? If you said Paris, you got it. And right smack in the middle is none other than the Eiffel Tower. Well, maybe your heart isn't set on a place so far away. Maybe you want to go someplace within the United States. Maybe you've always had your heart set on this major U.S. city. Do you know what it is or where it is? You bet. This is none other than New York City. New York, New York. The city's so nice they named it twice. And right in the middle of the harbor is none other than the Statue of Liberty, a gift given to the United States by France. Well, there's cities and then there's skyscrapers. Do you have a favorite skyscraper or landmark that you just saw? You saw Big Ben. You saw the Eiffel Tower. You saw the Statue of Liberty. Is there a site that you've always wanted to see? One skyscraper that I just absolutely love just happens to be in New York City, and that's the Chrysler Building. And I have been fortunate to see it up close and personal. I told you I'm afraid of heights, but sometimes you just have to go out there and do it anyways. And so here I am on the top of a skyscraper looking over my favorite skyscraper, the Chrysler Building. Well, sometimes you have good times. And this song by The Strokes is called Someday. And so I want you to listen to the lyrics very carefully, listen to the song, because it really relates to Eli and his complicated relationship with his dad. So today, we're going to be reading chapter 14, The Eagle Has Landed. And so, we're going to listen to a little bit of the song, and then we'll get into the chapter. Here we go. So when we get together, we have fun sometimes. Sometimes it's fun to be with our dad or our mom. But sometimes isn't always all the time. So with that in mind, we'll pick it up. Chapter 14, The Eagle Has Landed. Eli woke up early on the morning of Independence Day, or the 4th of July. Taking Flycar on a 5-minute test loop was one thing, but landing the vehicle successfully on top of a skyscraper smack dab in the middle of downtown Detroit was a completely different challenge. First off, Eli remembered that landing the plane hadn't been exactly the strongest part of the test flight for him. Second, if he didn't stick the landing, consequences could be dire. He could fall off the side of the building. Ah! Still, he felt fairly confident in his ability to successfully complete the mission. Eli decided to repeat his pre-flight routine. He was a little bit superstitious, so he put on exactly the same clothes he had worn during his solo flight. Then he went downstairs, poured himself a bowl of cereal, and read the comics, and prepared himself for the big day ahead. 45 minutes later, he quietly snuck out back so that his mom wouldn't awaken, and he went down to the old barn, as he had done so many times before in the past few months. Eli found Grady going over the final run-through and cross-checks to make sure that Flycar was ready for takeoff and landing. "Is it time?" Eli reluctantly asked. "Are you sure you want to do this, Eli?" Grady asked. "Grady, why did you want to take a job at Martin Motors after your dad died?" "Well, because I had to, son. There were mouths to feed and bills to pay." Grady looked quizzically at Eli, wondering why he was asking that question at this moment. Yeah, I know all that stuff, but beyond that, how did you feel the day you mentioned minivans to my dad?" Eli pushed back. "Well, proud, I guess, for making a difference," Grady responded. "That's the exact reason I need to get behind the wheel and do this," Eli said, looking determined. Grady and Eli rolled Flycar out through the double doors of the barn and into the early dawn air. Eli slipped on a pair of black, shiny leather racing gloves and fastened his seatbelt and fired up the engine. Vroom, vroom, vroom. The engine responded with a light roar as he stepped on the gas pedal a couple of times. He didn't need to be reminded that this would be no Sunday drive in the country. Grady rubbed Eli's spiky brown hair. "Good luck, Junior." "Thanks, Grady. See you later." Eli said, sounding more confidently than he felt. Eli released the emergency brake and began accelerating down the lawn. He pulled back once again on the steering wheel. Ever so slightly, the front wheels began to leave the ground. 100 more yards, and the back wheels followed suit. Eli was airborne. He pressed the propulsion button and cleared the hedge of trees as if this were the 3,000th flight in Flycar instead of just the third. Once again, he banked ever so slightly to the left and waved to Grady, who returned the gesture with a snappy salute befitting the 4th of July. 10 minutes later, Eli was soaring over the meandering, emerald green waterway that was the Detroit River. He noticed 7 steel and glass buildings standing like sentries protecting the city, and he knew at once that they were part of the famed Renaissance Center. He admired their architecture and could even see the reflection of Flycar in the windows between the 50th and 51st floor of the center's hotel, the Detroit Marriott. Eli negotiated his way around the historic sites of the city. He flew by One Detroit Center and the Penobscot Building before making a 90-degree turn past the Book Tower and City Center. He spotted Martin Motors corporate headquarters in the middle of downtown with relative ease. It was a modest building and compared to some of the Detroit's bigger and larger skyscrapers, but it had one feature that the other buildings lacked: a flat, open roof that was perfect for a landing strip, now modified just for Flycar. Eli leaned heavily on his instrumentation to get him through to the landing. Keeping his wings as steady as he could, he grasped the steering wheel as if his life depended upon it, which in reality it did. He made the descent slowly but surely. At about 100 yards from the edge of the building, he eased the steering wheel down cautiously. Second later, Flycar's tires screeched and smoked as they kissed the blacktop. The hook device engaged, snatching the vehicle, and brought the car to an immediate halt. The action all happened so rapidly and rather violently that Eli's head smacked against the front windshield with a loud crack. It wasn't enough to splinter the glass, but it caused a good-shaped egg lump to form on his forehead. So he's got a big lump right there. The throng of media photographers immediately emerged from behind the covered rooftop staircase, startling Eli. Hadn't his dad promised that there would be no media? Reporters bombarded Eli with questions as he exited Flycar. He did his best to cover the corner of his forehead within extending his arm as he waved to the crowd. Cameras flashed as if it were the night at the Oscars and Eli's celebrity strolling down the red carpet. Eli tried to act enthusiastic for the media, but behind the jovial exterior, he was furious at his father. Later, behind closed door, he let his dad have the full measure of his fury. I thought we had a deal. No media. I know, but Martin Motors stock price is in the tank. Shareholders are unhappy. And if you haven't heard, we're almost near bankruptcy. Don't you think you should give just everyone a little something to smile about? Please? Eli didn't like his father's reasoning. All he wanted was a little more time with his dad, and now what he had hoped for would be a father and son bonding opportunity was turning into a media circus. If he had known that his father staged the whole event to boost the stock price and appease shareholders, he wouldn't have made the journey at all in the first place. After the photographers and reporters dispersed, Eli and his dad returned to Martin Manor in stony silence. Their sedan pulled into the circular driveway, past the decorative fountain, toward the front door. Eli's dad stooped down at the doorstep to pick up the Wall Street Journal. The two were met at the door by Eli's mom, who wasn't too pleased to see the growing purple bruise on her only child's forehead. "What happened to Eli?" Mom exclaimed. "Well, he had a little accident," Dad replied, looking down nervously while wiping his feet on the oversized area rug in the hallway. "I can see that. Does he have a concussion?" His mom said in a concerned tone as she inspected Eli's forehead, which was now aching. "I'm not sure. I'm not a doctor," Dad said. "Before you go around using our son as a little test pilot, I'd appreciate it if you would at least have a conversation about it." Mom fixed her eyes upon her husband. "How did you know?" "Seriously, Michael? I just turned on the television. Flycar Story is on every channel across America." Mom replied as she stormed into the living room to fetch her purse. "I'm taking Eli to the doctor to make sure that he's okay. I'm going to get him checked out." And with that, we complete chapter 14. The eagle has landed.